The former president of Chile, Sebastian Piñera, died in a helicopter crash this afternoon, as was confirmed by Chilean authorities. In Palestine, the Israeli regime committed 12 massacres on the 123rd day of its relentless siege of Gaza, killing 107 people and wounded 143 others. And in Spain, farmers' union continue protesting in Catalonia to demand a diesel fuel subsidy and the purchase of their agricultural products at a fair price, among other issues. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The former president of Chile, Sebastian Piñera, reportedly drowned after the helicopter in which he was traveling plunged into the lake. There were 3 survivors of the accident. The identities of the victims have not yet been officially confirmed. The accident occurred on Tuesday afternoon in the rural sector of Iliue, in the town of Lago Ranco, in the region of Los Rios, when a private helicopter with former President Piñera on board plunged into the middle of the water body with at least 4 occupants. It is reported that 3 of the occupants were able to get out of the aircraft. However, a 4th occupant was left inside because he could not unlock his seatbelt. According to initial reports, the helicopter took off in the middle of a rainy day and low visibility that affects the area, and after a few minutes of flight, it lost stability and went down. Now let's review a profile of the former president of Chile, Sebastian Piñera. Sebastian Piñera Echenique, he was a Chilean politician, businessman and investor. He was president of the Republic of Chile from 2010 to 2014 and from 2018 to 2022. Piñera studied commercial engineering with a major in economics at the Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile in the financial sphere. He was the owner of one of the largest fortunes in his country, with an estimated capital of $2.7 billion in 2017, according to Forbes magazine, thus becoming one of the 10 largest millionaires of Chilean nationality that exist at present. His administration at the helm of the South American country are remembered as some of the worst in the country's history, with a history of human rights violations after the strong repression of the demonstrations against the social outburst of 2019, in addition to the attacks against indigenous peoples, the deficit in access to housing, in addition to the implementation of neoliberal measures that greatly increased the cost of living in the country. In Chile, the Forensic Medical Service updated the death toll from last weekend's fires in the central region of Valparaíso, where there are still many bodies that have not been identified. As of 7 p.m. local time on Monday, the death toll was 123 people, of which 33 were identified. Also at the time, 79 autopsies were performed and 3 deceased were delivered to the families. In this context, the Undersecretary of Justice, Jaime Gallardo, informed that the forensic service staff was increased to speed up the work in the Valparaíso region. Likewise, the forensic services joined forces with different institutions as the District Prosecutor's Office and the Investigation Police to continue facing this tragedy.
What has impacted us the most is the magnitude of the destruction of this fire. Personally, in 11 years, I had never seen the level of violence of a wildfire that spread to homes, that devastated the entire population. And that is the most shocking thing.
In this context, the organizing committee of the 2024 Viña del Mar Festival has announced that it will cancel the pre-event gala scheduled for Friday, February 23rd. The drastic decision was taken in view of the complex situation of the forest fires that are raging in the fifth region. The promoters assured that they are continuing to develop the preparations for the festival with the aim of holding the event with a focus on solidarity. The festival generates around 4,000 direct jobs and another 20,000 indirect jobs during the month of February. In the United States, authorities declared a state of emergency after a storm flooded several areas of California, killing 3 people and affecting thousands. In Southern California, it rained for more than 24 hours, while in the north, violent wind gusts caused the fall of large trees. About 830,000 people across the state were without power on Monday afternoon. In Los Angeles, a severe storm caused landslides and floods that cut off highways. In response, Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency for 8 of California's 58 counties. On Tuesday, the sixth dialogue between the delegations of the Government of Colombia and the National Liberation Army concluded in Cuba. After 2 weeks of intense negotiations in Havana, an agreement was reached on a bilateral ceasefire for the next 6 months. The National Liberation Army committed itself during this period to suspend unilaterally and temporarily the economic retentions. The parties also agreed to create a multiple donor fund for the peace process and to continue with the dialogues in order to achieve the desired peace in that South American country. The president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, reiterated his denouncement against a campaign of political persecution that seeks to bring about a coup d'etat against him. The president called on the population to mobilize in support of him and in rejection of what he described as the mafia takeover of the public prosecutor's office. Petro accused the general prosecutor Francisco Barbosa of putting this institution at the service of the conservatives' interests to hunt people close to the government under an institutional clock. The Colombian president also recalled that the constitution prohibits the office from investigating the president, while reiterating his condemnation of the right of the headquarters of the Colombian Federation of Educators to look for alleged irregularities in the financing of his electoral campaign. In Mexico, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador announced a series of constitutional reforms initiatives, mainly of political, economic, labor, educational, electoral, and social nature, which will be immediately sent to the Congress for discussion. López Obrador, whose Morena party dominates 65% of the Chamber of Deputies, along with its leftist allies, proposed a score of measures to modify unpopular constitutional articles that have gone against the public interests. The president stated that the objective is to protect the most disadvantaged Mexicans and enhance their development opportunities. Among the reforms initiatives announced by the president, the intention to modify retirement policies was announced, with changes to the reforms promoted in 1997 by President Ernesto Zedillo and in 2007 when Felipe Calderón was already president. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega sent a letter on behalf of the Nicaraguan people to Grenada's Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell on the occasion of the Caribbean nation's 50th independence anniversary. The letter wrote, on behalf of the people and government of reconciliation and national unity of the Republic of Nicaragua, and on our own behalf, we express our most sincere and warmest congratulations to you, to your government, and to the broader people of Grenada on the special occasion of commemorating the 50th anniversary of independence. The letter went on saying, Nicaragua reiterates its firm commitment to continue strengthening the bonds of friendship, fraternity, solidarity and cooperation that unites our people and governments. On Monday, the Supreme Electoral Tribunal of El Salvador declared the preliminary vote counting of the presidential elections failed without giving explanations about the errors in the process. In this regard, the electoral authority acknowledged failures in the results transmission system, which prevented to conclude the closing and continuing as expected. On the other hand, the president of the Electoral Tribunal, Dora Martinez, assured that inconveniences made it difficult for the transmission of data. In this sense, she noted that the system was able to process only 70.25% of the tally sheets in the presidential election, while in the legislative election only 5.06%. On the other hand, the polling stations workers denounced the breakdown of the transmission system, the slow internet connection, the lack of paper to print the tally sheets, and even system errors that double and triple votes for the party of Nayib Bukele. In Brazil, Major Eduardo Paes decreed a state of public health emergency in the city of Rio de Janeiro due to dengue fever. The city council inaugurated on Monday 10 centers for the care of patients with the virus. The Minister of Health, Nícia Trindade, asked for the cooperation of the population to prevent the disease from spreading in the city. She also announced the upcoming presentation of the calendar for vaccination against the disease throughout the country. The immunization will prioritize children and adolescents between 10 and 14 years of age, as this is the age group that concentrates the highest number of hospitalizations due to the disease. Brazil registered a sharp increase in the number of dengue cases in the first 2 weeks of the year 2024. The Palestinian health authorities denounced on Tuesday that in the last 24 hours, the Israeli occupation army committed 12 massacres, killing 107 people and wounded 143 in the Gaza Strip. In the framework of the 123 days of total siege on the Palestinian population, Israel intensified its air, land and sea attacks on several areas of the coastal enclave. In this regard, local authorities highlighted that Zionist attacks targeted civilians while shelling a residential apartment in the city of Hamad, northwest of the Khan Yunis city. It is worth to highlight that since last October 7th, the occupation army has killed 27,968 Palestinians and wounded more than 66,000 in the Gaza Strip, while thousands more remain under the rubble. Meanwhile, in the north of the Gaza Strip, thousands of families wait for the arrival of food and aid while they try to survive the Israeli attacks. In this regard, locals denounced that members of the forces of the occupation army continue shooting daily against those who are looking for food. The Russian government denounced the aggressive nature of the United States policy in the Middle East after the attacks on Syria and Iraq. In the framework of an emergency meeting held by the United Nations Security Council, the permanent representative of Russia, Vasily Nevencia, described the U.S. attacks as illegal and irresponsible actions. Nevencia asserted that such actions are a direct threat to international peace and security. The diplomat further stated that Washington's actions are a sign of its total disregard for international law and shows that the United States is deliberately trying to drag the largest Middle Eastern countries into a regional conflict. Israel Public Defender's Office reports that thousands of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails sleep on the floor, suffer poor sanitary and hygienic conditions, and are crammed into small cells and live with rats. The document from the Attorney General's office, following a visit to several prisons, revealed that some 3,400 Palestinians have been imprisoned since the start of the current cycle of violence on October 7, 2023, increasing the pressure on the already overcrowded cells. Among the problems identified are overcrowding, poor sanitary and hygienic conditions, pest problems, as well as lack of adequate ventilation and basic equipment for inmates. The report warns of prison crisis and possible unnecessary frictions with guards. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news, coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Spain, protests by the Farmers' Union are blocking different accesses to the main roads in Catalonia to demand a diesel fuel subsidy, the purchase of their agricultural products at a fair price, among other things. With tractor rallies, the Farmers and Agricultural Union closes road accesses to protest for improvements in agricultural policies in view of the crisis they are going through. Likewise, a spokesman for the Ministry of the Interior emphasized that the security forces are working to guarantee the right to protest and that the citizens can access essential services. For its part, the Spanish Confederation of Freight Transport, through a statement, urged the government to take actions that could guarantee the free circulation of people and goods throughout the country. And from France, the European Union's executive arm on Tuesday shelved its anti-pesticides proposal in yet another concession to farmers after weeks of protests blocked major capitals and economic lifelines across the bloc.
Which is the worthy aim to reduce the risks of chemical plant protection products. But the SUR proposal has become a symbol of polarization. It has been rejected by the European Parliament. There is no progress anymore in the Council either. So we have to do something. And that is why I will propose to the College to withdraw this proposal. But of course the topic stays. And to move forward, more dialogue and a different approach is needed. And on this basis, the Commission could make a new proposal with much more matured content and with the stakeholders together.
Now let's go to the world of sports, exactly the one known for balls, strikes and runs. The fifth day of the Caribbean Series, a baseball tournament that brings together the champion teams of the Caribbean and Latin American leagues, was played on Monday. During the fifth day of baseball, the team from Curaçao defeated the Gigantes of the Rivas from Nicaragua. With this result, they improved their record to 2 wins to 2 losses and keep them on track to qualify into the semifinals of the Caribbean Series 2024, while Nicaragua is the only winless team of the event. On the other hand, the team representing Venezuela, the Tiburones of La Guaira, thanks to an explosive 7th inning, won against the Naranjeros of Hermosillo out of Mexico, which gives Venezuelan manager Ossi Guillen his 3rd win and places them 1 step away from qualifying to the semifinals to be played on Saturday. In the last match of the day, the Federales de Chiriquí of Panama defeated Criollos de Caguas of Puerto Rico in a close game, assuring their qualification to the semifinals of the tournament with a record of 4 wins. In this way, the Panamanians are the only undefeated team and are waiting for the sudden game, aiming to advance to the final on Sunday. And the world of music celebrates on Tuesday, February 6th, the birth of reggae star Bob Marley, remembered for the commitment and leadership he assumed within the social cultural current. His talent for composing, strength of spirit and indifference to the certain slights of black Jamaicans because of his mulatto status made him a global figure of popular culture. Robert Nesta Marley, his full name, is considered the best known and respected interpreter of reggae, a genre declared intangible cultural heritage of humanity by UNESCO in 2018 and the greatest representative of his country in the Rastafarian culture. One of the biggest reviews this month is the release on February 14th of Bob Marley One Love, a tribute to his 79 years, a drama directed by Reynaldo Marcus Green and starring British actor Kingsley Ben-Adir as the icon. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.